Hi, and welcome to my channel, Mostly Mental Mary, where I talk about mostly mental health, and my name is Mary. Today I am comparing my old journals. So, I have 3 different journals at all different steps in my mental health journey. This one is one that I started over a year ago, and it was when I really got the help that I needed. Started right after my lowest low, and I got the help that I needed, and you can tell that there's therapy work in here, and you can tell that I'm making progress. This one is even more so. This is my current one. I've only gotten halfway through it at this point. This journal, I was not in mental health recovery. This journal, I don't know coping skills. I've been very recently diagnosed. I am not doing any CBT therapy, so I'm not learning how to retrain my brain. And I just wanted to make this video to show the difference between what your inner dialogue can look like when you're not getting help and when you are getting help. Let's dive into comparing these journals. So, trigger warning here. This journal does not come from a safe space. Now, this journal was started right after I saw a psychiatrist in college and got my first official diagnosis. So it's full of a lot of research about my diagnosis and fears at the time. This was also when I was in my sophomore to junior year of college. So let's just dive right in. I've got one page selected that I'd like to share. At the time, it was my process of trying to figure out how to communicate what I was going through to the people around me who were not dealing with any mental health issues. Because there's a difference between being a stressed college student and being someone with an anxiety disorder or a depression disorder. And so I was really struggling trying to figure out ways to communicate. And I'm still a little proud of this to this day, so I'm going to share this one first. Imagine your head is a hollow cavity. Imagine there are little balls of energy, thoughts, pain, love, depression, happiness, and power. There are several of the little balls moving around inside your hollow cavity. I imagine that in a normal mind, these balls flow in an organized pattern, straying some, but mostly staying in their pattern. But in my head, things are different. Sometimes the balls flow in a pattern, but it does not last long. Sometimes the balls fly around at racing speeds, unable to control their direction. They hit one another and hit the sides of my hollow cavity. I cannot control them, and they threaten to tear me apart. They are loud, intense, and painful. Sometimes they don't work. The light they emit dulls and shrinks into darkness. They gather together in the center of my head and pull deeper and deeper into me. They want to pull me into a black hole inside myself and never let me go. Sometimes the flow, high-paced efficiency is complex and beautiful designs, unflawed, unbreakable, precise, and perfect. This is the best description I can give you of my head and my life and my mind. Someday I want to open up and let all the balls fall out. So that was my attempt to try to communicate what I was feeling. I've got a description of what the anxiety attack feels like with all of them racing around, and then the depression with them being sunk into the black hole. And then I have times where I am doing great, and that's when it feels unbreakable, precise, and perfect. But I think it's a really good exercise for you to try to come up with ways to communicate. Because sometimes if you have people who are in your life who do not understand mental health, trying to communicate it and trying to be understood can be one of the biggest obstacles and the biggest hurdles. Once you can start communicating and getting that step so that you can feel heard and validated, everything else, all your other coping skills, seem like they become a lot easier. At least that's what it was for me. As soon as I could get my husband, who was my fiance at the time during my diagnosis, as soon as he could get to a point where he understood what was going on, at least to the point where it wasn't completely foreign. Like, he didn't understand on a level what he experiences it, but once he got to a level where he understood that I was going through something pretty strong and severe, it helped us, and it helped him become my support person more. So I encourage that. I'm not going to read much more of this one. I think it's too much of a trigger warning, and it's just not beneficial, and the point of my channel is to help people. So I think I'm going to let this one get closed up. So we'll move on to this one. This one started after I hit my lowest point, and then at that point got the help that I needed. So this one was started right after I got a psychiatrist and a therapist and started psychiatric medication and really started taking control of my health. Now, I did have to hit my lowest point to get there. So this does not scream sunshines and rainbows. Okay, so this one was just a little fun snippet. When I was in therapy almost every day, at some point, I don't remember what happened, but Andrew did something where he hurt his hand. That's my husband. And we had to go to an urgent care, and the urgent care where we live takes forever. So it says, I think Andrew and I spent about 4 hours at the doctor last night. I'm glad he didn't need a cast or anything. Andrew said I was being way more positive about it than he was, and I joked that I've been in intensive therapy, so I better be positive. That's not really like an advice or anything. I just thought that was a super funny way that I worded that. Okay, so this next one comes from a few days later, October 17th, 2018. This is when I start really using my therapy tools in this journal, which is the reason I wanted to read these out. You notice that in my last one, I was just struggling trying to communicate how I feel, because that was what I needed at the time. And now in this journal, what I needed at the time was to retrain my brain. So what I was working on with my therapist was having a negative thought and then doing a rational counter statement. So here was my negative thought. My negative thought: the house is a mess. Everyone can clean and function correctly. Why am I so lazy and crappy? And my rational counter statement that I did was, the house is not as clean as I'd like it to be. Once I take care of me, then I'll take care of the house next. So a counter statement is something that you validate that what you're feeling is a true emotion and that you don't have to put it under the rug, but you're bringing in other ideas that, you know, it's maybe not as bad as you think it is. My second one, this is when I was teaching. So if I don't have a detailed lesson plan with everything set, the class will be chaos and everyone will be miserable. And then my rational counter statement was, even if the lesson plan isn't the best or done, I am capable enough as a teacher to prevent extreme chaos, and even if things do get messy, it isn't the end of the world. That's some examples of negative thoughts and rational counter statements. Anyways, so the reason I'm bringing this one up is because it was October 2018. It's now February of 2020, and yet I still kind of feel this way. So it says, right now I am at Amelie's drinking a mocha and wondering about my identity. Why does what you do for money have to be such a contributing factor for who you are? I feel really conflicted at the moment because anything that I can think of that I might have a passion for and would fit in my identity seems too stressful for my mental health. But everything stable enough for my health sounds unfulfilling. Feels like at this point I cannot just return to teaching and pretend that everything is fine. I still feel that way. I don't know what I can do professionally, and that's a frustrating thing. That's where I'm going to wrap up this video. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. The goal of this channel is to share my knowledge about mental health. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested on getting any advice from someone who deals with it every day. I'll see you next video.